Good evening to you. I'm Meteorologist Nicholas Herboso. Hope you're doing well this Saturday evening. We have no tropical issues for us locally, but we do want to talk a little bit about Tropical Storm Debby because it is a storm in the Gulf of Mexico, and that, of course, always gets a lot of attention. Well, we thank you for joining us as always. We are on Facebook Live right now, as well as on the Fox 10 Gulf Stream. If you do want to engage in the comments, you can do so on Facebook Live, and I will be able to check it. I have a screen right there that I can see it, so I will be checking for questions and comments. Typically, if you know how I do these, I tend to blaze right through them, but this one we're going to go a little slower. We're right ahead of the newscast here. We'll be starting the newscast relatively soon here after the baseball game that is on Fox 10 right now ends. But once that ends, we'll be on air with the news, but taking this time ahead of the newscast to go live and answer some questions about Tropical Storm Debby. So if you have any questions, be sure to drop them in the chat, but we're going to first here give you some of the particulars on the storm. This is a 40-mile-per-hour tropical storm. It was designated Tropical Storm Debby earlier today, and we've been providing coverage all day through social media with some updates as well. This is as of the 7 p.m. Central Daylight Time Advisory, so about an hour 45 minutes ago now. Pressure 1,005 millibars. That's been very slowly going down. That pressure going down indicates that the storm is gradually strengthening. We've also been watching the thunderstorm slowly try to fill in around the center of the storm. We have one area of thunderstorms that we'll look at in more detail in a second that is near the center of circulation. Otherwise, we do have this gap on the northern side of the circulation. I'll point this out on the computer. That is a little bit drier with no thunderstorms at this time. We'll be looking for that to fill in if this thing is going to continue strengthening, and we're expecting gradual strengthening over the next day or so. Moving to the northwest at 14, but it is turning to the north. In fact, if you look at the forecast, or excuse me, the current track there, it actually looks like it's moving more north-northwest at this time, probably beginning to make that turn there, and it's going to keep in this motion over the next little bit before it rounds the coast there and ends up in the Big Bend of Florida. So here we go with the forecast track here. This is the latest advisory that does bring this storm up to a Category 1 hurricane right before landfall. What is the timing for landfall? Anywhere between Sunday night into Monday morning. So Sunday night into Monday morning as a Category 1 hurricane there. Then after that, it gets really interesting. You see where the track goes, it widens a lot, kind of balloons out. That is showing that we have some higher uncertainty there in the track. That is because our steering flow around the storm is going to be getting much, much weaker. Right now we have high pressure that is trying to push this thing out off the East Coast. There's high pressure over the Atlantic. But we also have high pressure over us. If you remember, we've been talking about the heat dome. That retreated west very briefly, but it is going to be building back. And as it does, we're going to get this contrasting flow in the upper levels, and the storm is just kind of stuck in the middle. So it slams on the brakes and drops a lot of rain. The places that will see most of the rain, Florida, North Florida, southern Georgia, the Carolinas as well, especially the coastal Carolinas. Some indications are that the track kind of goes north here, maybe flips around off the Carolinas coast and comes inland. I will mention that some of the forecasts do take it and loop it, and you'll have to see my arrows, like this. Now that would bring it slightly closer to us, but at that point it would be very weak. And right now we are not anticipating that to happen. We are going with the official track from the National Hurricane Center. I just wanted to mention that. So we have no issues from this storm locally, but it's interesting to watch. This is going to be just off to our east, and it is going to be very, very close to us but we do not have any bad impacts from this. So let's keep going here. What is the environment that this thing is moving over? It is moving over some very, very warm ocean waters, 83 degrees, 86 degrees, close to 90 degrees. So if it can develop a core around it of thunderstorms, it would have the opportunity to strengthen as it moves across the Gulf of Mexico. So that opportunity is on the table. That stronger storm offer is on the table. It just has to take advantage of it. Will it? It's possible. There is some very weak wind shear that'll be coming, and as it approaches the coast here, there'll be some wind shear coming out of the southwest here that tries to shear the system, but it's going to be very light wind shear. So that will not disrupt its strengthening, but it might do a little bit just to make it that slightest bit harder for the storm to strengthen there. Let's zoom into the storm right now. This is the high resolution satellite. This is our 1 minute update satellite. This is a very, very great tool. This is what we call the mesoscale floater. Sits right over the storm and gives us an image every minute. And notice, it's hard to tell where the center of circulation is. It's actually this little bubble right here. But notice we have this gap of drier air. We want to see that fill in if we want the storm to strengthen at all, which right now that is not happening, and that's a great thing. We're going to keep this probably as a tropical storm for a while here, all the way as we get to the Big Bend of Florida as we approach landfall here. The track does take it off to the northwest and then turns it towards the north here. All of these thunderstorms that you see, like currently over Fort Myers, and those will be approaching Tampa very soon. We've had some squally weather in South Florida today. Those are dropping some heavy rain, already kind of giving a precursor to the heavier rainfall totals, which will be coming as the storm organizes and skirts off to the east. Let's look at the radar here. Talked about squally weather in South Florida. My goodness, we've had actually over Miami, look at this, very recently, one bigger squall that just rolled through. We've seen some reports of some stronger wind gusts around tropical storm force with these, so not out of the question there that we've been seeing. Of course, this is a tropical storm. Some stronger wind gusts being reported in Key West. And look at the center of circulation as well. Notice it is not a tight swirl. It's just kind of a broad area of spin. There are some tight swirls embedded in there. This thing is still organizing, and we've got some time before it gets really organized. Sis, could it move to the west? There's some nudges, and there have been some nudges, but I am not expecting a extreme jog to the west. Not at all. We're pretty confident in this track. Now, once it stalls out at the end of the forecast track, and we'll look at that in a second again, it could drift closer to us, but at that point, I do not think we would have the same impacts, and most models do still keep it away from us. So I have my hopes up, and I really do not think that we will be seeing anything like that. So here's the wind field forecast, and I wanted to mention that right on the Florida coast here, that yellow area, that's a tropical storm force winds. It is clipping the coast there. So Clearwater, Tampa, Tampa Bay, places like that, seeing some of the tropical storm force winds. Those will be sustained tropical storm force winds. That orange area, 58 mile per hour or greater, so a core of stronger winds. This is as the storm strengthens. This is Monday, 9 a.m. As it becomes a hurricane and moves very close to places like Tallahassee. Actually, Valdosta, Georgia gets very close to the center of the storm there. Cross City, Lake City, so some of those places in the Big Bend of Florida. Steinhatchee as well, Cedar Key, some of those areas dealing with that. Now, beyond this, and you can kind of see the forecast cone does spread out a lot, and that's where we really focus on the rain impact there. I want to mention the wind impact. That small core that I mentioned that could go over places like Perry, kind of Steinhatchee, kind of Cedar Key, St. Mark's as well. It's this little red area right here. That is the hurricane force wind probability, and this area is the area that could see hurricane force winds with the eye wall of the storm as it develops right before it moves on shore. We are expecting this to be Category 1 hurricane with winds of 75 miles per hour. To mention how close this is to us, take a look at this yellow area. That's tropical storm force winds. Take a look at Okaloosa County here. It is very close. Now, this is going to be the drier side of the system, so we're probably not going to see that much rain on that side, but it might get close. So it is close for us, but thankfully it is not over us, even though a lot of us really want the rain, I know. Marie, you said send some of that rain our way. We want it because it is going to be hot. I'll have to talk about that in a second. How are we doing on time? It is 8:50. I've got to hurry up. 1 to 3 feet of storm surge near the Everglades, 2 to 4 feet near Tampa Bay here. Then we move forward 4 to 7 feet for places like Cedar Key, Horseshoe Beach, all the way up to around St. Mark's, Apalachicola, 3 to 5 feet there. So storm surge will be an issue with this storm. I'll mention it once again. If you have any questions, be sure to put those in the comments there. But our main concern with this storm over Florida is the flash flooding risk. That moderate flash flooding risk you have for tomorrow. We are expecting some serious rainfall out of this, especially as the storm stalls later on. So that's the flash flood risk for tomorrow. But let's look at the rainfall totals over the next 7 days. 10 to 15 inches, that is probably generous. Some places will see higher amounts. To get into some detail, inland areas in the Florida Peninsula will have a little bit less rain, while some of these coastal areas close to the center of circulation, like Tampa and also Fort Myers, those areas will have higher totals around 5 to 7 inches. Then you see this core of yellow here. That's wherever the core of the storm goes, and please understand that this will shift around because we do have some track uncertainty here. These bullseyes of 10 to 15 inches will move around, but those are the areas wherever the storm stalls, wherever those bands happen to set up, they will see the highest rainfall totals. There's no great way to tell this far out where the bands will set up that dump the heavy rain. There's no great way to tell where the core will set up for the heaviest rain, but we can get an estimate and we understand that high rainfall totals will come out of this. One way we can keep an eye on what's going on, we can use our forecast models. These are projections, so it will not look exactly like this, but you can get an idea. This forecast model in particular comes really close to the coast, the west coast of Florida. I think it's almost too close, but it is a scenario that is on the table. This would bring way more impacts to the Tampa, St. Petersburg, Clearwater area there. That's some heavier thunderstorms. And by the way, I will mention that over the Florida Peninsula, we could see some possible tornado impacts. So we have a slight risk of severe weather there. And that's just typically what we see with tropical systems. There it is. This model's a little faster. So here's Sunday night already approaching landfall. And you can see how very quickly it gets its act together, almost gets an full eye wall wrapped in there. Also, if you remember, I mentioned that light shear. You can kind of see that how as an eastern weighted system there, slightly from that wind shear. So then this is really interesting. This is 6 a.m. Monday. There it is, hurricane making landfall, Big Bend to Florida. I'm going to let this play out, and I want you to watch this. There's 3 p.m. on Monday, and the storm just kind of stops. This is Tuesday. I could let this go all the way to Thursday, and the storm would still be there. That is going to be an incredible amount of rain. And that is the problem with the end of this forecast cone. So here it is, that forecast cone again. Look at the end of it. From Monday here, Monday to Thursday, that's all the movement we get. So this is going to be stuck just to our east here for quite a while. And that does do things to our forecast. That is going to really impact our forecast in a drier way while all the wetness is off to our east. Let's look at how that happens. We get a northerly wind, and this northerly wind blows in drier air. So if this will let me go to my rain chances, I have lowered the rain chances once again. In fact, those 10% are generous. Probably won't see rain Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. If we do, it'll be a little speck. But really, they tank down by Monday. Monday is a generous 20%. And what this does, we have dry air moving in, and we essentially have a little mini desert situation that happens. 99, 100 degrees for Wednesday and Thursday. It is going to be extremely hot. But our humidity does drop just a little bit, So that will help us out. It will not feel as hot as it could if we did have the moisture with us. Dew points will still be in the 70s. That'll still feel steamy, but it could be worse. So heat index values will be around 105, maybe 110 degrees, pretty much the status quo for what we've had the past few days. So the week ahead, I know many places are starting school. Be ready for it. It is going to be extremely hot. Quick note about the beaches. Our one impact that we do have locally, an increased rip current risk that starts tomorrow night. You see low there on Sunday. That is going to increase to moderate. And from there on, it is a medium risk of rip currents Monday and Tuesday. Surf around 2 to 3 feet. So we got to be careful if you're down at the beaches. Here's your 7-day outlook. If you have any more questions, here we go. Hot, hot, hot is the deal there. Next Saturday, 97 degrees with a 20% chance of rain. It's pretty much the status quo for the end of the week there. That storm might still be there. What's left of it might still be to our east. So we might still be getting that northerly wind, and I think that's what a lot of the forecast models are saying. Let me take a look at some of the comments. Alan, thank you very much. I appreciate the comments, and thank y'all so much for tuning in. We are about 4 minutes out from when we would typically start Fox 10 News. We do have a little bit of a delay today because of a baseball game. But I'm going to leave y'all with the 7-day outlook here, a very hot one for sure. If you have any more questions, drop them in the comments here, and I'll try to get to them. Sticking with you for tomorrow morning and maybe even tomorrow evening as well. We'll just keep going all the way. Okay, thank you. We got to go. But we're going to be going all the way through here the weekend, so we'll keep you updated. But thank you so much for joining us. I'll leave y'all with that 7-day forecast. Once again, thank you so much.